show with two retired detectives that were in the thick of New York crime, fast and hectic. They got some stories and some jokes, even an interview with the most popular folks. Off the cuff, one episode just ain't enough. Get a little laughter and an interview too. It's maybe the best thing you can do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, Bill Cannon. I'm a retired 27-year veteran of the NYPD. And with me tonight, as almost every night, is my co-host, straight out of Brooklyn, Phil Grimaldi. How you doing tonight, Phil?
I'm doing pretty good, Billy. Merry Christmas to you. I got my eggnog here, and I got the Wonder Wheel in the background.
I'll tell you what, this is a pretty ambitious show. One of our subscribers said to me, you know, you should have a Christmas show. You have all these cops. Cops have great stories. Why don't you have like 4 or 5 cops come on and tell a Christmas story? And I said, you know something? That's a great idea.
Great idea.
And her name is Carol Grayston, and she's from Scotland. Scotland, of all places, she came up with this idea. Isn't that a fantastic idea?
Great idea.
Carol, wonderful. And I think, we're going to try to come up with one guy at a time is going to tell his Christmas story. And we have with us tonight one of the most highly decorated detectives in NYPD history, and his name is Mikey Heinrichs, and he's a Brooklyn guy. I'm gonna actually show you a picture of his rack. There's Mikey's rack, and that's our little sticker that we sell. Polish my rack, and Mikey charges $25 a person to come over his house to polish his rack. I don't know if he's doing it during the season, but anyway, we got Mikey Heinrich on. Mikey's gonna come on first and tell his great Christmas story. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Hey guys, how are you? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. I see a tree in the background. That's fantastic. So, Mike, I hope this isn't going to be like a bloody Christmas story. I hope it's like there's a little bit of Christmas cheer in it and goodwill and all of that stuff.
Not really, but it's not a bloody one either. You know, when you first asked me to come on the show, I started to think about, Christmas and, working and all that. And I was reflecting on, things that popped up here and there. And I do have a few stories. I know, it was, short with time and that, but I'll make it quick.
Just tell it like it is. If it's too long, I'll just take you off the goddamn screen. But no, tell it.
I'll keep going all night. But
yeah.
Anyhow, coming out of the academy, I was sent to NSU 14, and it was, it's in the 79th precinct in Brooklyn, and we had graduated in December 1984, and about 2 or 3 days, it was Christmas Eve, and I went to the precinct, and I was sent to Woodhull Hospital to guard a prisoner, and okay, that's what I got to do. I go, at least I'll be warm, and I go to the hospital, and I meet the guest of honor. And I cuff him up, and shortly thereafter, droves of these guys start coming into the hospital, and I didn't know much at the time. But matter of fact, I knew nothing, but I knew these guys weren't out ringing the bell for the Salvation Army during the day. These guys were all gunfighters from the Marcy houses coming to visit their guy. And, it got to the point where there was just a couple of dozen guys in there, and I'm just sitting there minding my own business, hoping nothing goes wrong. And the staff started complaining, and the next thing I know, I don't know what to do. So I call the desk and say, hey, listen, there's a bunch of guys here. There's only 2 people on the list. They're not supposed to be here. And, the boss on the desk is like, hey, kid, take it easy. It's Christmas. Have a heart, So I sat there all night. The guys left. I was there with the prisoner, Christmas Day, Christmas night. I was there for almost 2 days, and I finally got relieved. And I'm saying to myself, man, it's got to get better than this, Which it did. I mean, Christmas, one thing we all had in common when we worked Christmas was that, everybody wanted to be somewhere else. And I do remember thinking back, to the days like first in the precinct, some nice things, people coming in with baked goods and people on the street, saying hello, God bless you, get home for Christmas. I hope you get home to your family. Nice things like that, and things like, if you were working in uniform, you pop into a mass and, the eyes fall upon you and people would nod and recognize you. And, it felt good. But later on in the squad, really when you're a cop on patrol, your day can only get ruined to, so much. But when you get to the squad, if something happens, it's really, and the last thing you want to do is real police work on Christmas, as you guys well know.
For sure.
You don't want to be chasing perps on Christmas Day.
No, but in the squad, if it was quiet, God willing, we made the best of it. I remember guys, taking up collections. I had this, victim, a few months ago. They could really use some help. We drop off an envelope to them. Or, one guy went one year to the local post office, grabbed a bunch of letters from Santa. We picked out a kid and dropped the present off to him and stuff. So that stuff was all good stuff, But I also remember the tension when the phone rang, and guys were wondering, is this going to blow us up for the rest of the night, But I worked my share of Christmases, pretty much uneventful. But when I got to homicide, my first Christmas, I come in for a day tour. I'm working myself. It's nice and quiet till about 9:30, and we have a police involved shooting where uniform officer shot and killed a perp. So that's sort of that Christmas. You know how that stuff goes. So that was a Christmas gone. But
hey, Mike, did you have the occasion when you were first on the job to get like what I did? I was single and I would give guys off Christmas Day that had children, and I would look to be off Christmas Eve or maybe even New Year's Eve. Did you wherever you work? Did you work that kind of stuff out? Is that
yeah? Well, not so much on patrol, but when you got into the squad, guys with little kids will you would work it out. You didn't pull like tax number. I got more time. I'm taking Christmas and Christmas Eve. You whacked it up. Right. So it was fair to everybody.
Yeah.
The thing is, you had to whack it up, and you also had to try to think or try to, you needed a crystal ball to figure out which day's better. When am I going to get stuck or when I'm not going to get stuck,
Yeah.
And that was the anxiety of the whole thing.
Mike, you mentioned before being in homicide, and I know that feeling is that something could happen on Christmas Eve and you could wind up having to be at work for 2 or 3 days straight without going home.
Yeah.
And you always sort of prayed that nothing would happen on Christmas Eve, especially if you had kids, because you wouldn't see your kids for days.
Yeah. Once the kids came, it was a lot harder to go to work on Christmas Eve and Christmas morning. It's just, it's not where you want to be. But like I said, we made the best of it when we could. And I'm sure I know some bad things happen on Christmas and Christmas Eve, but thankfully I really couldn't put a finger on any one particular that I remembered. But I do have a little bit of a Christmas story that happened on Christmas that I figure I could pass along. It was in 2001. I got promoted to second grade in June of 2001. I think we probably talked about it on one of the shows, previous shows, and that Commissioner Carrick had singled me out, and at the end of the promotion, he went on and said all types of great things about me when I got promoted. But when he had this little speech about me, he mentioned that, if I could have made him first, I would have made him first. And later on, when he invited me and my family up to his office, he said, the next promotion, you're going to get first. And I said, okay, great. Thank you very much, Commissioner. And, it was in the back of my mind, but I wasn't thinking about it every day. It sounded great. But then as months went on, and in September, of course, 9/11 happens. And things get all, thrown in disarray. The commissioner's leaving, the mayor's leaving. We're doing all the 9/11 stuff. The aftermath, the morgue, the landfill, the whole thing. Catching cases in between, and it's really not on my mind. About getting first grade.
Hey, Mike, I just want to ask you one quick thing about that, because I think I remember the story. Didn't he ask you when he made you second, we feel bad because you were supposed to get promoted early? Didn't he ask you where you wanted to go? And you says, no, I'm good in the homicide squad. Is that true?
Yes, he did ask if I wanted to go anywhere else.
Right. I remember that.
But like you said, I said, no, thank you. I'm happy here.
Right.
I want to go to the North Pole and work with the elves.
What, you got a thing for elves now?
Right. But anyhow, like I said, it's sort of the back of my mind. But getting, I guess it was probably the 20. I'm going to say the 22nd of December. It comes down that I'm getting first grade, and now I'm ecstatic, and it's great. I call the family, hey, get everybody ready. It's going to be on Christmas Eve. The promotion was going to be. It was going to be Commissioner Carrick's last promotion, and true to his word, he got me first grade, and everything was great. The only problem is that I was up for the next case. And,
Oh God.
you know, when you're in a homicide squad or in a detective squad and you're up for the next homicide, you really you really don't want it, especially not only with the promotion, but Christmas and all that. You really don't want anything to do. So that night was fine. Nothing happened. The next night, the team got together and we went out for a little dinner to celebrate. And boom, you know, we catch a case of the 7-0 on the 23rd. And thankfully, a couple of my partners who Phil knows well, Bobby Bush and John Nelson, God rest his soul, both great guys, stepped up and they took the case for me and ran with it. And I was able to go home and get promoted on the 24th. And
good men you just mentioned, both of them good people.
Yes, great guys. So now the 24th comes and they get promoted. Everything's nice. Come home, family in the house, friends. You have a little, you know, Christmas Eve and the next morning I get up early, Christmas morning, to you know, get stuff ready for the kids. They were still young at the time. My wife comes down, we're getting the tree ready, all the presents underneath, and now I got to make the dreaded phone call to the borough. You know, God, I got one more day to go. What could happen on Christmas? You know, so I call the borough and Janice Raycraft, who was on the wheel. I just remember her saying, I said, hey, what's up? You know, it's Mike Heinrichs. You know, we got anything? And she's like, busy, busy, busy. I'm like, oh, boy.
Oh, God.
And now I'm there. And, you know, my wife's sitting like, what's the matter? And she could watch like the Cub Shore, like the colors like draining out of my face now. She's like, well, we have one stabbed DOA in the 7-0, another one stabbed, likely to die, another one stabbed. He's over in the county of Brookdale. And some guy in Jersey's probably part of it. He stabbed, you know, he's out in the hospital in Jersey. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, any good news, you know? So,
Merry Christmas to you too.
You know, she says like, well, the good news is it looks like it's all one incident in the same, you know, same house party gone bad, you know? And I'm like, well, you know, I guess Silent Night, Holy Night wasn't on their playlist that night, you know, this party. So, I tell my wife basically, hey, this is it. You know, I'll see you when I see you, and off I go. You know, throw on the suit, drive over to to my office, which is in Coney Island, grab a car, go to 7-0, and the case is as advertised. There's about a dozen people there, and you know, various stages of sobriety. Everybody's of Mexican descent. They're either sleeping, screaming. Nobody speaks English. And
Death by Corona.
yeah, it was it was a McGill. It was a McGiller, as they say.
Yeah.
But you know, the good news, I caught the case with a guy named Louis Rivera, who's the police down in Florida now, and he's a great guy, and he spoke Spanish, and the boss was Candy Rodriguez, who spoke Spanish too. So, you know, shortly after I got there, night watching the squad guys did a good job of getting everybody in all one spot. But it became apparent that, you know, we had everybody there, perps, witnesses, and victims. We were all together here. So now
victims were perpetrators and perpetrators were victims.
Right. And everybody was related either by blood.
It was the knife fight before Christmas, and all through the house. You know, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
Right. So it was a disaster. But you know what? The three of us, with the help of a couple other guys, we went through and you know how the interviews go. When you know, I took 5 years of Spanish, you know, but it didn't help. You know, I could pick up a little bit, and you know, but it was basically, hey Louis, what do you say? Well, ask him this, and you're going back and forth, you're banging your head against the wall, and this goes on for a couple of days at least. You know, we're there sleeping in the precinct, going on, and finally we're able to get a few people together. You know, they name one of the guys in the station house as the stabber of the fatal. Thankfully, the other victims were survived. So we get the DAs involved. We get the witnesses taped, and we got the one guy collared. everything's all good until the powers to be in the DA's office come in, and I go to speak to him and say, hey, listen, this is what happened. We go through the whole thing, and the DA's are like, well, sounds great, but we're not charging anybody with anything. And I'm like, what? Excuse me? We're not doing it. We're not prosecuting the case. So that's like a real kick in the the nuts.
What was it? They
Basically.
made it justified? Was it like
No, they just
self-defense?
I mean they without getting into it, it's Christmas. I don't want to start beating people up, but I think it was more of a thing which we already knew. Like when they try to put this to trial a year from now, the only guy they're going to be able to find is the guy who was deceased. Everybody else is going to be in the
Right,
wind.
right.
And even if you find them, their story is going to change. They were all, like I said, related either by blood or from the old country, tight, and all that stuff. So that's how it went. And
Mike, that was one of the most beautiful Christmas stories I have ever heard.
yes, it is heartwarming.
That's what we call.
It was pathetic and sad and sickening. And without getting on my soapbox, what the hell are we doing here? 3 days, all this stuff, and now the case is blown out. There's no justice. There's not what's right. This isn't right. And the whole thing, but you learn after a while. I mean,
That's police work.
That's how it
that's
goes.
police work.
And
Sounds like a real bag of shit case, Mike.
I wanna introduce everyone who's here tonight.
Can I just finish up real quick?
Sure.
Joe Cal, there he is.
It gets a little worse because
I'm
after
putting my
all
name
this,
on here.
back to my office, and I run into my boss comes in, who Phil knows, and no names need to be mentioned. But he asked me what happened. I give him the whole sad story, what happened, and he says, "Okay, you're good. It's wrapped up." I said, "Yeah," and I'm thinking to myself, "Okay, tomorrow's a day tour. I'll go home. It's Christmas. It's New Year's Eve. I'll spend some time with family." And the boss says, "No, you're not doing a day tour. You're going to Times Square. Get your uniform and go to Times Square."
Oh my God!
So that was that Christmas. But just reflecting on the way back, after it all, the smoke cleared, and I get home January, New Year's Day later in the day, a thing popped in my head that an old timer told me one time, and he said, "Yeah, you know what?" He says, "Detectives are a lot like Santa Claus." And I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about? Detectives are a lot like Santa Claus." He goes, "Yeah, like one day you're the greatest guy, everybody loves you, the whole world, you can do no wrong." He goes, "The rest of the year, you're just another fat guy in a bad suit." and that's exactly how that week went. First grade, dodging the case, catching the case, and
then New Year's Eve, you're doing the detail.
And you're in Times Square.
And I know
oh my
exactly
God!
who it was that did that to you, Mike. He did
I'm sure you do,
to
Phil.
me. He did the same thing to me in '95.
Great.
Guys, I want to introduce everyone that's on the screen right now. Of course, that just finished that beautiful Christmas story, Mikey Heinrichs, first grade detective. My co-host, Phil Grimaldi. Duty Ron, the great Duty Ron that has the great podcast with 118,000 followers. He's Duty Ron. You're gonna go next if you're ready for the next story. And we have retired first grade detective and author Michael O'Keefe from Reckoning in Brooklyn, Burnt to a Crisp, and Shot to Pieces. Those are his 3 novels. And to Mike's right is the legendary Lieutenant Peter Pranzo of your book is called Harlem Raiders. Harlem Raiders is his book. And my first time meeting him, Lieutenant Joe Calderera of narcotics fame. Welcome to the show, Lieutenant Joe.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here with all of you.
Okay, guys, listen, I want to keep this going, so I'm going to remove everyone except Duty Ron. Duty Ron's going to tell his story.
One more. All right, excellent. Thank you, Bill. Hey, first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting and Carol over in Scotland, Grayston, I believe she was from Scotland. Thank you for suggesting this Christmas special. I just want to say hello to everybody in the chat and welcome you guys to this great Christmas special that Bill and Phil put together. Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories is a great place to be, just like Crime Time with Duty Ron. So Bill has asked me to come on and tell you guys a little bit of a Christmassy kind of story, a little bit something from the police side. You guys hear about all of the things that we do with the doom and gloom and, shots fired, gunshots all over the place. Yeah, there you go. You got some gunshots. But contrary to what everybody believes or thinks, I don't know. I know a lot of you guys here, strong supporters of the police. We do great things behind the scenes. We do a lot of really good things for not only the community, but for the people who we come into contact with. My story takes me back to December 23rd of 2010. It's a long time ago. It doesn't seem like it's a long time ago, but you're talking about a little bit over a decade now. My partner and I working in the warrant squad, and what we did is we did like a week of day tours and a week of night tours, and we were on the week of the night tours. So we had night court in Manhattan that was open until right around 1:00. They would do arraignments in Manhattan, and they would take warrants, returns on warrants. So we were basically citywide. We got a call from the Port Authority bus terminal. Whenever we get the bus terminal calling into our office, we know that it's either going to be emotionally disturbed person, as we call them, EDPs, somebody, transient, a homeless person that's trying to get out of the cold and into the Port Authority system. This was a warrant that was probably around 10 or 12 years old. It was a really old warrant, bench warrant. And they called the wheel. We were catching. So we went down to the Port Authority bus terminal, picked this guy up. 6'3", Southern guy, had a thick Southern accent. Me and my partner looked at each other and we were like, here we go. We got another smelly homeless guy that we got to bring to court and see if the judge is going to remand him. Well, this guy turned out to be a gentleman. He's in the back of our car. We handcuffed him, brought him in. He was telling us about his whole life story, that he's a good guy. He had a great job. He got addicted to drugs. He, came across crack cocaine and was addicted to crack cocaine, came up from down in South Carolina. And, he was telling us his story. We let him talk. It was December 23rd, the night before Christmas Eve. And we kind of knew that he was going to get remanded. So when we were talking to him, he didn't have anywhere to live. He, usually the judges look for family ties. His father still lived in South Carolina. He said that he wanted to get back to his father and he had no money because the money that he would get, he would use for drugs. So it was a song and dance that we heard many, many a time. My partner, he was getting ready to retire. I think his last day was January 8th of 2011. So he was on his way out. He was retiring. I still had at least another year or so under my belt or two. And so we returned this guy, and he was talking our ear off. We kind of almost wanted to tell him to be quiet, but he was telling us that 5 years in the past, he saved a tourist in the subway system. He was beaten, got stabbed. He got slashed, not stabbed, slashed. He wound up wrestling the perpetrator that committed the crime against this kid in the subway. I don't remember where he was from, but he was given the keys to the city by the mayor. And he was telling us the story, but we thought he was full of crap. We thought he was full of. My partner and I proceeded to bring him up. The judge that was on the bench remembered the guy and called us up to the bench and said, "Hey, listen, this guy, I'm gonna expunge his warrant. We're gonna let him go." He remembered him from that whole incident because it happened in Manhattan. And we both looked at each other and we were like, this guy really wasn't full of shit. He was telling us the truth. He does have a drug problem, and he did want to get back to see his father, but he didn't have any money in South Carolina. We both looked at each other. It was Christmas, the night before Christmas Eve. My partner and I looked at each other and we nodded our heads. And what we decided to do that night was return this guy to his father in South Carolina. So we purchased his one-way ticket down on Greyhound. We drove him back to the Port Authority bus terminal. We bought his one-way ticket, but we didn't buy the ticket until we got his father on the phone. He was 93 years old. We called his father. We verified that he had a place to stay. And his father was he broke down. He was crying on the phone. We called him by department phone. And we paid. we paid for his ticket back, and we gave him $20 extra. So it was one of our feel-good stories, but it didn't end there. So December 24th, around there, he made it back Christmas Eve to South Carolina. His father called me and verified that he had his son. And what he told me next was the best Christmas gift I ever got. And it was December 26th. It was the day after Christmas. The guy called me, and it was back then we had those department phones. We would take them home with us. He called me on the department phone, and he said, Mr. Detective Licardi, this is so-and-so. I want to just say that you gave me the best gift of my life. And I said, what is that? And he said, my son. He gave me my son back. And I was in tears. It was the day after Christmas. And it's just some of the good that New York City police officers and detectives, sergeants, and all ranks across the United States, probably across the world. This is some of the good stuff that gets done by the police department. And you never hear about those stories. So that's my Christmas story for you guys. I forgot to turn my lights to red. I was supposed to do that before I did it. So that is the Duty Ron Christmas story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It made me feel really good, and I know Bill, as a sergeant, you're proud of your men who work for you. So
100% Duty Ron. That was a very touching story, and I think that probably all of us, in some way, some time in our career, have a story like that. That we really help someone out, and it's very heartwarming to hear that you really touched someone's life in such a great way. Folks, thank you so much. I just want to thank all of our subscribers, all our fans, our channel members, our Patreon people. CR Patrick, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. It's really appreciated. And all you folks, Fuzzy Doxy, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. And of course, Duty Ron, he's on the show and he's giving me super chats. Very much appreciated. It's good to do a show like this. We're not doing it for money. It's a touching show, and I think it's great when cops can tell their stories and people can really see cops as human beings. I'm going to take Duty Ron off the screen. I'm going to put Lieutenant Pete Prenzo. Duty Ron, thank you so much for that great story.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay. The great Lieutenant Pete Prenzo.
Yes.
Retired a lot of years
really
ago.
A heartwarming story, though. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Billy, but I really love that. Duty Ron, that was great. That was really the judge, you guys, the ticket, the father calling you. That's a real great NYPD Christmas story.
Wonderful. And as I was saying, that most cops, if you do a 20-year career or more than that, you have stories like that. And some of them you just take for granted. You forget about them because you're doing good things all the time, Lieutenant Pete, I know you have some amazing stories. As soon as you start, I think Phil and I are going to take ourselves off the screen, and we're going to let you have the whole screen. So you got the stage, Lieutenant Pete.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Salute.
Merry Christmas. Salute. Salute. Some book with the 3 beans in there.
That's it. Nice. Billy tried to get me with that one time. He threw the 3 beans question at me, but I got it.
That's right. Health, happiness, and prosperity.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me on. As always, it's a privilege. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bill and Phil and all the other guys. I appreciate that very much. It's been a great ride. And as they said, I'm by far the oldest guy here. I'm 75. I'm out 33 years, and it's been a great retirement and been keeping busy. On to now the stories I'm telling you are going back 40 years, so you have to bear with me a little bit. But I was part of most of my career. 90% of it was making arrests, and it's all you did. That's all your teams that I work with and I supervised for many years. That's what I did. So when I talk about the Christmas holidays and such, I'd like to move away from that a little bit because we've all been involved in those kind of serious incidents and shootings and things that went right and things that went bad, but we were very involved, and I was in particular for so many years involved in the ugly side of police work, especially back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. It was a violent time. So I'd like to just talk about what we did. I'll make it as quick as I can. And the 3-2 precinct was Central Harlem. And back in those days, Central Harlem, that particular precinct, was very poor. Probably, I traveled all around that city and I worked in almost all the precincts. It was probably at the time, it was the center point for the heroin connection from the mafiosos bringing the heroin in and delivering it. So it was a violent precinct for many years and decades, and it was a very, very sad situation, especially for the children. So it was payback in our way that my team, the Harlem Raiders, a diverse team of blacks, Spanish, and white, a tough bunch of cops. And we went out of our way at the holiday time and at Christmas in particular. We went out of our way to make sure that every poor kid in that precinct, every handicapped child, sick child, a mentally ill child, they all had access to some kind of a little piece of Christmas. So we made sure through our community relations folks and our personal knowledge that every kid in that precinct would have a present. So through donations and private contributions and such, we made sure that every child in that Harlem precinct had a baby doll for the girls, and we had trucks for the boys, and it worked out very well. And personally, what the guys did, especially my Raiders, my big tough cops, all Vietnam veterans and Marines and Army vets, toughest guys you could imagine, heroes in their own right. They would get into police cars, go out and bring these kids with their parents into the precinct so they could be receive their presents. And if they couldn't come into the precinct, weren't able to, we would personally go out there with the community relations folks who would go out there and deliver those presents to the kids. Now these kids, there was no Christmas tree, very poor family structure. It was very sad. It was, so when they got their little meager present or two, it made such a big difference to their lives. And the parents or parent, and some of them had none, they were with the other orphan type parents. It was beautiful and it was very heartwarming. And I thought about what kind of stories to tell and such like that, a lot of funny ones I had. But I think this was something that it could portray of what police around the city, and that's just not the precincts that I worked in, but the precincts around the city. This is what they do around the holidays. They all have these Santa Claus set up at the precinct, and they all have the presents for those, of course, who can't afford it or get nothing. And I mean it. It's an impressive time of the year. So to see big, tough, strapping cops do this kind of work on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, pushing aside the arrests and personal situations and making sure that it was a Merry Christmas for all the young people in the precincts that I worked, in particular the 3-2 precinct, one of the toughest, best precincts in New York City history.
Lieutenant Pete, I've gotten to know you over the last couple of years. You've been on a guest on this show numerous times. And I mean, what people see is what they get with you. You're a gem of a man. You're a hero. I'm sure you were a great dad. You're probably a great grandfather. But we really appreciate you, and we just want to let you know that.
Thank you so much, and it is my pleasure to be here. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Phil. And it was an honor to be here. You guys are the best. Police off the cuff.
Well, you're the man, Lieutenant Pete.
Much.
Thank you, guys.
The next guy we have up is he's another. I mean, it seems like everyone on this damn show is a hero, and it's Lieutenant Pete. I'm gonna have to pull you off the screen to make some room for him. It's Detective Michael O'Keefe, and if you know Mike's story, it's an amazing story. In 1992, he of course was the police officer who got in a life and death fight with a drug dealer named Kiko Garcia, and Kiko Garcia is no longer here, and Michael O'Keefe is, and we're happy that it turned out that way. And Mike's alive, and Kiko Garcia is in drug dealer hell or wherever he went, but it's great. And Mike, not only did Mike, he reinvented himself once he retired from the police department. He's an author of novels. He's got 3 novels out, Shot to Pieces, Burnt to a Crisp, and Requiem in Brooklyn. I can't believe I remembered all 3 of them. That was pretty impressive. And he's a great storyteller. He's a great guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael O'Keefe.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. Merry Christmas, guys. It's a very heartwarming story so far. I don't have one of those. I'm going all the way back to Christmas Eve of 1987. It's actually my second Christmas in the 3-4. And we were doing the old 9-squad chart at that point. I was in squad 4, but we had rotated into late tours, and that Christmas Eve was actually our last one. And, you go down to minimum manpower. I'm working with a guy. I don't remember his name. It was either Phil or Anthony, but he was a guy that didn't make much of an impression. He had like 5 years on the job at the time. Whereas, I'm a newcomer. I'm only there a year. But I don't ever remember seeing him at like radio runs or backing people up or making arrests. And it didn't occur to me until that night, why that was so. But in any event, we're thrown in together. And this is after chasing my wife for 2 years, she finally let me, she slowed up enough for me to almost catch her. And this was going to be our first Christmas together. I'm going to be at her mother's house the following day for Christmas dinner. So this is a big thing. It's I really like this girl, which, evidence how much I liked her. I ended up marrying her, and we're together almost 30 years now. But I'm working with this guy, and the understanding is neither one of us wants to get stuck with an arrest, obviously, because we want to be home for Christmas. And I'm okay with it. And they give us the old sector in the 3-4, George Henry. And there's a tough area closer to the precinct down toward Broadway. But if you go all the way to the west, to the east, all you have there is Yeshiva University. So this guy, Phil or Anthony, decides that he's going to drive and he's going to keep us out of trouble. And basically what he does, he's doing a circuitous route around Yeshiva University. And it's getting to the point where it's really boring. Apart from the fact, I understand, and we're not looking to lock anybody up, and I'm cool with that. But guy, have something to talk about. He's maybe the most boring person I've ever been in a car with. But we're going down 180, I believe it was 184th Street, heading down toward Laurel Hill Terrace, which actually is behind Yeshiva University. It's actually from the street Larry Davis, a couple of years before that, had actually sprayed the university with machine gun fire just to test out a new gun that he had. And I think they still have specialty posts there now, SP1 and SP2, that still guard the university, even though Larry Davis is dead. But in any event, politically, that's how things work in New York. Protection forever. But we're coming down 184th Street, and there are brownstones, old brownstones, over on the right as we cross Amsterdam Avenue, heading down to Laurel Hill Terrace. And I see people up on the Polo level coming down the stone steps. And the first guy coming out has that giant knife with white stuff around it sticking out of his chest. And he's being followed by 2 females. And the guy, I start banging on Phil's arm like, stop the car, stop the car, stop the car. He's paying no attention to anything until thunk, this guy's on the hood of the car. He finally steps on the brake. The guy slides off the front and down in front of the RMP. I get out, and he has the hilt of the knife sticking out of his chest is probably about 9 inches long, which means that there's at least 9 inches of knife in his chest. And it's covered all around the outside in icing. So I start speaking to the women. They're all from Mexico. They're all from originally the same village in Chiapas in Mexico, which I later found out talking to them. But I'm asking, how'd this happen to them? And they speak English. They actually work in the restaurant industry in Manhattan. This guy, the victim, had just been up for a year. And the guy that stabbed him is up in the second floor apartment. It's his best friend. He's the one that talked him into moving from Mexico to relocate to New York for the economic opportunity. So we decide, all right, we call an ambulance, roll the bus forthwith. We got him stabbed. And now I go up to go find the guy, the stabber. And it occurs to me about a flight up, I'm alone. So, all right, that's how it's going to go, I guess. And I go up into the apartment and I swing the door open. And in the kitchen, standing over a cake with what looks like a fist indent into the middle of it, holding another enormous 14-inch knife, is the other guy. And he's practically hyperventilating. He's all upset. He's got this crazed look in his eyes. I draw down on him like, dude, just put the knife down. And he looks at me like he's thinking about having a lunge. I begged him, please, guy, don't make me kill you on Christmas Eve. I got things to do tomorrow. But finally he comes to his senses, and he realizes, yeah, I should probably put the knife down. And he drops the knife. I get him hooked up. I bring him down, and the bus is bringing the guy right to, I think they were going right to Columbia Press. They didn't pronounce him, but he had already gone out at a picture at that time. So now I'm trying to make some sense of what the hell's going on here. And I end up getting the whole story from the females. And this guy who will not shut up, he just keeps confessing. He's sorry. He's miserable. Will you please shoot me? This is my best friend in the world. We were fighting over who was going to get to cut the Christmas cake. It's probably as senseless a homicide on Christmas Eve probably that was ever committed. But the guy I'm working with will not take part in helping me with this arrest in any way, shape, or form.
You know, Mike, that's another one of the most beautiful Christmas stories I've ever heard.
Well, it gets better because I don't, my shit doesn't get ruined. He's not helping me with anything. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. He doesn't want to hear anything. He's covering his ears. Finally, Night Watch comes to the 3-4. The guy shows up and goes, look, I'm not staying. I'm going to let you into the squad. Just babysit him. The squad will be in the morning. Don't do anything with this guy. So I figure I'm stuck. Like this, this budding romance, this first big Christmas family dinner with my girlfriend's family. I'm not even going to have a girlfriend after this. This is over. I'm sitting in the squad and I have no one to talk to. So I'm talking to this guy. And really, it's just me listening to him tell me his tale of woe and apologizing. He keeps apologizing for killing his friend. I'm like, yeah, I know. We've been over that. Let's wait for the detectives because I have no idea what to do with this information. I got like a year and a half on the job. Sure enough, the squad comes in. I think it was Tony Imperato, Jerry Giorgio, and Huey Drain came in. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, they didn't tell you? I got a homicide collar. Tony Imperato, who always had a smart mouth, is like, in your dreams, you got a homicide collar. And you don't get to get them, kid. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're like,
he meant it.
Yeah, he goes, no, we're taking this. We're taking the whole thing. Thank you for wrapping it up for us, but we're taking the whole thing. I'm like, great. What do I got to do? He goes, well, after you talk to us and we tell the district attorney what you're going to tell the district attorney for the grand jury, you're going to go down to the medical examiner's office and you're going to go home and have a Merry fucking Christmas. And I said, yes, I am. That's even on my way. And they just took it off my hands. It was a shame about this poor guy losing his life. But it was my first homicide apprehension. And from that point forward, I'm like, I'm gonna lock up everybody for murder and not keep any of them. It didn't work out that way, though.
That's a great story. Rachella Pranzo, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Allegedly guilty. I don't know if that's Joe Murray or Angie Yang. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. And Philly, I think you're Phil Grimaldi. You're up next, but I think Lieutenant Joe disappeared.
He did.
I don't see him on the screen. I could add him, but he's not there.
Okay, maybe his phone is messed up. Let me text him, and then I'll get into the story.
You guys, let me add everyone back to the screen. Hey, Mikey, you all right?
I'm good.
All
Duty,
right,
I got to
very
put duty run. That's the screen, and that's not even everybody. So when I add the lieutenant, if I add him, there's 7 people on the screen. This was what Hollywood Squares were looking at, right? Wasn't that
Let's play. We're ready to go.
the old show? The old show we had.
Yep.
You know, it's funny, and not funny, but I mean, when I asked you guys to tell story, I didn't ask you what your stories were. You know, and Duty Ron told like the most heartening, and you know, it was like one of those stories you could tell in a Hallmark card. You know, and the rest of you guys have stories that you can tell in in a homicide book, right, or a movie about the hood. But I think there are the folks that watch us and listen, and I think they appreciate those stories even more than the heartfelt Christmas stories, you know. And actually, Lieutenant Pete had a very heartfelt Christmas story also. And I mean, I can't even imagine. You were in the 3-2 what, in the 70s? Was it the 70s or?
Yeah, 70s and 80s, 77 to 84.
Wow.
Yeah.
That place
Yeah.
must have been.
Yeah.
14 years you were in the 3-2?
No, 77 to 84.
Oh, 77.
Yeah,
That's why I
the
became a
70s,
cop. I
almost
can't do
80.
math. Yeah. That was
Joe
great.
should be coming back in, Bill.
I think he's back in. I'm going to add him. I'm going to take all you guys out.
Before you
and
let
we're gonna-
Mike go, Mike, listen to the story we're going to tell because it's quite similar to the story you just told, believe it or not.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to remove everyone, including me. I'll leave Phil and Lieutenant Joe.
Let's hope we have Joe. There he is.
Silly boy, I can't hear you.
You can't hear us? Do you have any volume at all? Oh, boy. All right. Let's see if maybe he can reestablish. I'm going to get into the story. There's a little pretext to the story now. This is Christmas Day, 1983. Both Joe and I are working in the 7-0. I only had about a year and a half on the job. Joe about the same. But we weren't partners. His partner had children. And here he comes back. Let's see if we got him. Oh, we got the blank screen. Anyways, his partner had children, so he worked to give his partner off. My partner had children. Joe, can you hear me? All right, we had him for a second there. Anyway, I gave my partner off, and he gave his partner off, so him and I hooked up together. Now, in those days, one of the other guys that was telling a story, I think it was Mikey Heinrich, said on Christmas Day, they go down to minimum manning. So the bottom line is that when we turned out on Christmas Day for a 4 to 12, there was a north car and a south car. We were the north car. So we had the north end of the precinct. It turned out it was a lovely day. It was real cold out. I pulled up the weather for that day, and it was actually the coldest day of the year. The high was 13 and the low was 4 degrees that day, Christmas Day. So it was extremely cold. It had been cold for a few days. And that plays into the story a little bit because in the 7-0 precinct, there was Prospect Park with a big lake, and the lake would freeze over. So you would have an ice car. There would be a fixed post, a uniform patrol car would be assigned to the lake, and they needed they'd have to stay there for the whole tour, and they had a 1-hour meal. So we were told at 6 o'clock to go over 1,800 hours and relieve the ice car so they could go to it was one officer, so he could go to meal. Now on Christmas Day, 4 to 12, everybody brought in some stuff. I remember Joe Cald's mom, I think she made baked ziti. My mom made something. Everybody brought in a little something to eat. So the guy that we were relieving was going to go into the precinct and eat. So Joe and I are in the park, and it was really like a picture postcard. It was a beautiful day. Let's see. We got Joe. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, good. I'm just about at the part where you got to take over, Joe. So we're in the park. The
You're
guy
telling
goes
the whole
to me.
story. What'd you need me for?
No. The good part is coming. The good part is coming. So
I thought that was the good part.
That was the good part. You're right. We relieve the ice car, but I got to give you a picture of what Prospect Park looked at. There was a little snow. The lake was frozen. So it was a beautiful scene. So we're leaving the park, and Joe gets on the PA speaker, and he starts singing, "Walking in a Winter Wonderland," and he's doing the whole song over the PA. So we're having a great time. And just as we exit the park, a call comes over on Ocean Parkway in a very nice building, by the way. and it came over as calls for help. Joe, I'm going to let you take over from there, and if I need to interject, I will. Go
Okay.
for it,
Well,
pal.
first thing I want to say is, as I'm hearing all these stories, of course, when it was my turn, my phone went kaput, and it sounded like on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Remember they were playing that song, and it kept going, "Oh yeah," and that's all I could hear. I couldn't hear what anybody was saying. But with Detective O'Keefe, he was talking about Washington Heights and the 3-4. And you might be saying, Philly, what does he know about the 3-4? You know, I was always a Brooklyn cop. But Mike, my father's business was right next door to the yeshiva. He was 183rd Street and Amsterdam Avenue. So I kind of grew up over there on Fridays. I used to go change tires and do oil changes and stuff in my father's garage. So you're saying that a lot of good memories came back to me. But the other thing I want you guys to know is if you're ever going to be in a foxhole and there's fighting going on, the guy you want next to you is Phil Grimaldi. Believe me when I tell you.
Thank you, Joe.
Never been a better guy. As long as he got all his things done, his dry cleaning, his
Haircut.
banking, whatever else he had to do,
Haircut.
and then he was ready for action. So the day in question he's talking about, we relieved the ice car, and something else had come up. We were actually holding a job because we were getting ready for a meal. So we were holding a job, and we're on our way into the house, and this job comes over, and it wasn't calls for help. What it was a noise complaint. And it was a noise complaint, so they're calling the other car, the south car, to come all the way across the precinct to handle this job because, we're out of service and something else. So I said, Philly, we're going to take this job. I'm not going to make these guys come all the way across town. So we go to the building. Like Philly said, it was really a nice building. And as we got to the front door, like I said, it's a noise complaint. There's no reason to be leery about this or nervous or anything like that. And as we walked into the hallway, I recognized that there was 2 stairwells going up. So the building had a north side and a south side. And, a lot of times in these buildings, you go in and the radios would go out. So I stepped back out for a second. I said, Central, please be advised, there's 2 stairwells in this building. We're going up the south stairwell. That's where this apartment is. And I remember the dispatcher. Can you imagine this 40 years later, Philly? I remember the dispatcher's name it was Bobby. And he was like the best dispatcher in Brooklyn South.
Yes.
And he said, okay, Frog, no problem. And you could just hear in his voice like, geez, why are you telling me that? What's the big deal? So we go up a couple of flights, and this door opens up a little crack, and this guy, he points, he puts his hand out, he points his hand upstairs, that's where the problem is. So Philly and I look at each other, we go up another flight, and now you hear the commotion, and there's like really screaming and blood-curdling screams, really sound like a bad dispute. And again, you think you're going to a noise complaint, somebody's playing Christmas carols too loud. So the door is ajar. I'm on the side of the door where the hinges are. Philly's on the other side. And I push open the door, and Philly's got his gun out. And here's a guy, and there's 3 women around him. And they're fighting. And the guy's got this big knife, like O'Keefe was talking about, big carving knife. And he's got it up in the air, and the 3 women are grappling with him, and it looks as though he's looking to stab one of them. And we're screaming towards him. And again, what O'Keefe was saying, and it was like, the guy took my thunder. The guy starts walking towards us, and I'm telling him, drop the knife, drop the knife. And Philly's telling me, Joey, I'm going to shoot him. Joey, I'm going to shoot him. And I remember saying to the guy, kid, please, don't make me kill you on Christmas. Yeah. I remember saying the exact thing to him. And he took another step or 2, and Philly said, I'm going to shoot him. And all of a sudden, he drops the knife. So he drops the knife, and Philly said, Joey, go get the knife. So I go to get the knife. I go to pick up the knife. And as I pick up the knife, he gives me a kick in my chest. He knocks me down, and he starts running for the back, and he's screaming, I'm going to get my gun. So I hop back up. I start after him. Philly's after him. And Philly gets tangled up with the women. So he goes into a back bedroom. It was like a what they used to call it, Philly, like a boxcar apartment. You know, the
Yeah,
little doors
railroad
off the
car.
one hallway. And he closes the door, and I slam into the door, and I hit the door so hard that the door came off the hinges. And when the door went down onto the floor, I went onto the floor on top of it. So, geez, I can't believe I just did that. Oh my God!
We still got your volume, Joe.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was getting a text and I touched the thing. I'm sorry, guys.
Maybe
So,
it'll come back, but keep talking. We can hear you.
I'm on the floor on top of the door, and the guy hops on my back, and he's got another knife, and he's got it raised up. And I remember blinking and saying, "Jesus, what a day to get killed! Get killed on Christmas, and I'm gonna ruin Christmas for my mother and my sister forever." And that's all going through your head. You know, they say you believe your life flashes before your eyes. The next thing I know, I never got stabbed because Philly knocked the guy off me so clean. I didn't even feel him knock him off me. And he's got the guy. And next thing you know, before I could even get into that fight, I'm attacked by the three women. So, you know, we're battling it out.
Did you enjoy the three women attacking you, Joe?
Not the way I recall, no. So, you know, we get the guy cuffed. We didn't lock up any of the women. And, you know, there was no help.
Do you remember
them.
the grandmother took a heart attack, Joe? You remember that part?
Oh, yeah, I didn't remember that.
Right
but,
as we leave it. And if you remember correctly, the guy was wearing a bathrobe, and
I do remember, like a red one, right?
He had he had the steak knife in the bathrobe. And when he dropped the first big knife, we thought, all right, things calmed down. The guns went away, you know, all of that. And then just all hell broke loose. And I think my nightstick had an indent of his head from the blow that I got him off your back.
Well, you told me not to say any of that stuff, so I didn't say any of it. You know.
Well, you could say it. Well, listen, he was about to plunge a knife into your neck,
But this is the moral of the story. Was what it turned out to be is they were having Christmas dinner, and one of the daughters had her boyfriend at dinner, and he said something that the kid didn't like, and they started going at it, and the kid got the knife, and he threatened the boyfriend, and the boyfriend ran out, and now the women were keeping him from going out after him with the knife. So, you know, he wasn't attacking the women, which is what it appeared to be when we got there. So make a long story short, when everybody came back from the hospital, and the guy was in the hospital for a while and all, and he's in a cage, and he had been high on angel dust. I mean, that was the crux of it, and that's made him, you know, pretty strong and pretty violent. So he said to me, "Hey, officer, can I talk to you?" I said, "I don't want to talk to you. You know, the guy tried to kill me on Christmas now. He wants to talk." He said, "Please, officer, can I talk to you?" I said, "Yeah, what is it?" He goes, I'm very sorry I acted like that."
That's right.
I said, "What?" He says, "I'm very sorry I acted like that. I'm sorry if I hurt you, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas." And I looked at him, and I was like, you know, where do you put your hate? You know, I mean, the kid was about 17, 18 years old. He was a kid. And I'd like to tell you, you know, he was 6'2", 250 pounds, but that wasn't the case. He was not a big kid.
He was about our size, Joe, if I remember correctly.
But
maybe a little
that's
taller.
not big. You know, I'm 5'7". You know,
he was a wiry kid, and you're right. I remember at the end of it when he apologized to you. Then he apologized. I remember shaking hands with the guy and him telling me, you know, it was the 7th anniversary of my father's death, and this guy, the boyfriend, you know, he came off to me, and the whole thing broke loose. But
well,
but
you
I
were
just
more
want
mature.
everybody to
You
know.
were more mature than me because I wasn't shaking hands. You know, I wasn't too happy. And the reason we were working together that day was because our partners wanted to be off Christmas Day,
right?
And we wanted to be off Christmas Eve. And I had already worked. I worked the Thanksgiving Day parade, and they wanted to give you one day off back then, like out of the Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. They wanted you to have at least one day. So Christmas Eve was a bigger day for both Philly and I, and we thought it was terrific. We were going to get a chance to work together. And after that day, Philly Grimaldi's been my very best friend and my brother.
I appreciate that. Joe. Thank
That's
you.
great, man. You know, you guys, I have everyone on the screen right now, except of course Lieutenant Joe because he disappeared.
I'm
But
gonna try to get back
Yeah,
on. Would
go
you
out and go
excuse me a
back in,
second?
Joe, please. Before
I'm
we
sorry.
close.
But you know, for all you folks listening and you folks watching, on the screen here is some of the best that ever worked a job on the NYPD, and I really mean that. Mikey Heinrichs, I mean, I can't. I mean, I'm so honored to have him on the show, and I sort of like to tease him now because I have a picture of his rack somewhere. Where the hell is? Oh, here it is. Here we go.
Boy.
Yeah,
There
I
you
mean,
go.
if that's not the craziest rack in the history of the NYPD, you guys that don't know about police work, that green bar it's called the Combat Cross, and he's got an oak leaf. If you see anyone with the green bar and an oak leaf, turn the other way and go away from that guy. All right. And then the blue bar is the Medal of Valor. And if you see an oak leaf on that, now you know this guy's double crazy. So, and in addition, he's got 212 department citations. Unbelievable, Mike. You had an unbelievable career, and it's my honor to always have you on the show. And I'm hoping in 2022 to get you on the show more often. If you'd only buy a laptop.
Right, and stay out of the woods too.
And stay out of the woods up in the Adirondacks where there's no Wi-Fi, you know.
Right,
And
so I have Wi-Fi up there now.
oh, they do have Wi-Fi up there. That's great. We got Michael O'Keefe, you know, who's doing great things as a writer right now, and I'm trying to all that. You know, look, I try to help people out even post job if I know people and if I can hook them up with a connection, and I try to do that with people. And believe me, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back because I can't reach it. I got arthritis in my shoulder, you know. And Duty Ron has helped our show, Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories, more than any single person. And when I first started doing the show, even though I had been doing it for a couple of years, I was doing it all wrong. And I didn't know that YouTube was the place to be and how to work YouTube is a science. And Duty Ron taught me all of that stuff, and as a result, we're nearing 25,000 subscribers, and you know, we're inching along there, and you know, we do what we call cross pollinate. We help each other out. We help each other get guests. We appear on each other's shows, and that's helped tremendously. Ron, I just want to thank you for that.
And Bill, I just wanted to say thank you for having me on with you. I got to say, you know, helping other cops is what we got to do in our retirement, right? We got to stick together. It was tough enough. It was tough enough while we were on the job with all the different nonsense that we had to deal with. Now that we're off the job, it's the gentleman's club. This is what we talk about. So, you know, when I saw what was going on with your show, I said, I got to try to help this guy. If I can get his attention. Finally got your attention. But I want to say happy belated birthday, Bill, right? Wasn't it your birthday?
No,
yet?
it's actually my birthday tomorrow. I just celebrated it yesterday because my sons couldn't come up during the week because they both
Now I
work.
got to change my calendar because I put it in for yesterday because you you're trying to play games with me. But
no,
anyway.
I wouldn't do that. You know, when my son was younger, my youngest son Jake, his birthday would like start out with he'd have about 5 or 10 different celebrations for his birthday, and I was like, Jake, stop it! Your birthday's one day, you get one damn party, you know. And I always remember that. So, you know, even though we celebrated it already, so I don't need 10 other parties. But you know, that's the way. It's fun.
I definitely feel honored to be here with all these great retired detectives, lieutenants. You know, you guys are tremendous people. So thank you.
And Ron, also, cops are such great storytellers. I mean, I think it's from telling war stories in bars. You get good at it. You get practice, right? And but some people are better at telling war stories than others. Let's face it, right? Yeah. And it's an honor.
Going through it too, Bill. When you go through it, certain things like that day is etched into my mind, and I can remember it like it was yesterday. That we were having such a, it's like on the spin of a dime, everything turned from good to bad.
Yeah, and that's the way it always is, right?
Like that, I mean, and you remember names, you remember places, you remember specific things, especially when somebody tries to take your life. I think that
that's an experience you don't forget. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Schmitty the third, thank you for the $5 super chat. Much respect to all of you. Thank you for all that you do. I wish I could tell you individually. We would have you would all have my back anytime, guaranteed. Thank you, Schmitty. You're a good man. Really
Well,
appreciate
long
that.
term,
May I
what you
interrupt?
were
May I say
saying.
something?
Go ahead,
Joe
Joe.
Kane.
Yeah,
Wait, I just want. Can I just read what retired Captain Joe Kane wrote?
Sure.
Each and every one of you guys are what I call the real police, not spoken lightly. Merry Christmas to all. That's Captain
you,
Joe
Joe.
Kane, who is my accountant, and he owns a company called Finest Financial. So rather than you guys asking for financial advice on Facebook, call Captain Joe Kane,
Yeah.
He'll help you out. Thank you, Joe. I really appreciate that.
Thank
You know, folks, everyone knows when they're among the real police, and I don't say that lightly either, because not everyone that's on the job or cop is the real police, but all you guys on this screen are the real police. And I say it's strange, but I always feel so much safer when I'm around cops. Why? Is someone going to attack me? I don't know, but I feel so much safer when I'm around cops. What do you think, Mike? Mikey Heinrichs?
Oh, yeah, no, I think, well, who else are you going to hang out with these days,
No one else will hang out with us anymore.
The only people
This
that'll
is
have
why
it,
we gotta have Mike on.
That's right.
Only
That's
people-
right.
only people who will listen to the war stories are other cops, all the,
That's right.
Well, I don't
Okay.
think I was ever at Brooklyn Central booking that I didn't see Mike Heinrich there.
Yeah.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
It's a good
I
time.
think every time I ever went, and I'm not saying I was there as often as him, but any time I went, he was there.
His black shows it.
When I saw
And Joe Murray, Attorney Joe Murray, thank you. Amen, my brothers. Happy birthday, Bill. Thank you, Joe. And a Merry Christmas to one and all. Thank you, Joe. We really appreciate you.
good
You know,
man,
amazing.
Joe Murray.
I'm,
He's the
I'm
best.
kind of
Joe Murray.
flattered because I think I'm the only narco ranger here. These are all squad guys.
Yeah,
So,
that's true.
I don't know how I got onto this, but I want to tell you a quick story. This isn't a Christmas story. But any of you remember Chief Capello, Eddie Capello?
Sure.
No.
All right, Chief Capello was Brooklyn South Detectives. And when he was an inspector, I was a sergeant in 6-7. I was a probationary sergeant. And I knew Eddie my whole life. As a matter of fact, like his sister and my mother were maid of honors for each other. And I knew him my whole life. So now my probation was almost over, and I heard they were looking for sergeants in the squad. So I went upstairs, I knocked on the door. He said, "Hey, Joseph, come in, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "Look, Eddie, there's a business call." He said, "What's that?" I said, "I heard you're looking for sergeants in the squad." He said, "Why, you know somebody?" I said, "Yeah, me."
You're looking at him.
So he goes, "Joe, you had to have been a detective to be a squad sergeant." So I said, "Oh, Eddie, maybe you didn't hear. Before I got promoted to sergeant, I got promoted to detective."
Right.
He said, "No, you were a narcotics detective. That doesn't count."
Man, he insulted you every way till Sunday, man.
What do you mean?
I
it doesn't
almost
count?
forgot, Philly. You got to do a quick one for Joe Murray.
no
Joe
deep-
Murray, attorney at law. Joe, glad you're on with us tonight. Have you found yourself in a jam? Are you in need of legal counsel in the New York area? Do you need a victim's advocate? Well, Joe Murray is your man. He's not only an experienced trial attorney, he's also a retired 15-year member of the NYPD. He literally knows both sides of the fence. His website is jmurray-law.com. His telephone number is 646-838-1702. Or you could reach Joe on his email at joe@jmurray-law.com.
Excellent,
And
Phil.
Joe
Well
also has a podcast, and there it is.
allegedly guilty. Guys, we're at an hour and 8 minutes, so I'm going to go around. I'm going to give everyone 30 seconds. No long 4 and 20 years ago speeches. All right. So I'm gonna start with Mikey Heinrichs. Last words, like 30 seconds or less. Mikey.
Okay, well, first of all, to all you guys, it's a pleasure being on with you. I want to say Merry Christmas to all you guys and your families and the police officers all around this great country. Stay safe. Hopefully you can get home at some point to your family, enjoy it. And just a special prayer for those poor people down in Kentucky and Tennessee that went through that devastating
Absolutely.
tornado. That's
Well
just
said.
horrible. God bless them all, and God bless you guys. And thanks a lot, Bill, for having me on.
I want to have you on again in 2022. You just got to get a new laptop.
We'll do one from up top. From
Yeah. Oh, from the Adirondacks. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do one from up there.
Okay, Lieutenant Pete. Last words.
Hey guys, it's been an honor and a privilege amongst the guys, the finest on the finest of the the NYPD. I thank you so much, Bill and Phil. And I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good things to come. And like Mike said, God bless the folks in the mid part of the country. They went through hell these last few days. And really, thank you so much. It's been a privilege. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy birthday, Bill, tomorrow.
Thank you, Lieutenant Pete. Mikey O'Keefe.
Yeah, just reiterate what everybody else said. Merry Christmas. Hopefully this is everybody's best year coming up. And I have no idea what the kids that are still active are looking at going forward. But my prayers go out to them.
Thank you, Mike. Duty Ron.
To be a cop.
Duty Ron.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody in the chat. Everybody that's here in the chat, sending positive words, positive vibes. It's all about you guys. We are just sharing our stories with you. Wishing everyone a Merry Christmas, a happy, healthy. Without your health, you have nothing. So mainly a happy, healthy holiday season, and continue to be kind to each other. Make sure you support your local law enforcement, your first responders, your military. Those are the people who are keeping us safe. So thank you so much, Bill, and all the great people here in the panel. I'm honored to be with you guys, and thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Duty Ron. Lieutenant Joe, last words.
Well, thanks for having me. It was really a lot of fun. And, of course, I want to extend Christmas wishes to you all. But the only thing I wanted to say is all you guys who are on Facebook and social media, active retired cops, stop knocking these kids today. Their job is a lot more difficult than our job was. They're being watched everywhere. Everybody's got a camera. So, maybe they can't do the job the way we did it, but stop knocking them and keep an eye out when they have their car stops and stuff because, you always want to keep an eye and make sure they're okay and they're safe. God bless you all. Thanks very much.
Well said, Lieutenant Joe. Philly Grimaldi, again, no 20 years ago speeches.
This will be quick. Real quick about the hurricane, the tornadoes that hit. That tornado raced across the land for 250 miles. They think it might be the longest hurricane that stayed on the ground in history. The whole area is devastated. God bless those people. The United States of America will come and help those people as much as they can. There's no words that you can say to make them feel any better. They're going through the roughest time in the world, but prayers for them. God bless them. I'm just honored to be amongst the great people that are on this panel. Billy, I got to thank you. I know what you do behind the scenes on this show. Duty Ron knows as well. He does it himself. You're a one-man show with the computer regarding putting on the guests, moving people on and off the screen. Thank you for having me as a co-host to be part of it. And I'm hoping for great things in this upcoming year, 2022. Merry Christmas to all the people in the chat and all of our subscribers and listeners. God bless everybody. And yeah, I got to say, Joe, that was good words about these young kids that are out there. If you go by a car stop, take a second look. I always do. I do it wherever I am. I could be out of state. I'm checking on a cop that's doing a car stop. And let's all law enforcement brothers and sisters be safe, healthy, and happy, and enjoy your Christmas.
Very well said, guys.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, just real quick on what Phil and the other guys said. My young son's out there. He's got 3 years on the job. He works out in Queens, so keep him in your prayers also.
Absolutely.
100%. Guys, this is law enforcement is a brotherhood, and I never feel as close a brotherhood as when I'm on this show with the great guys that come on this show. And folks, all you folks in the chat and all of our subscribers, all of our fans, thank you so much for supporting us in 2021. We're hoping to do great things in 2022, reinvent ourselves, come up with an even better show than we put out in 2021. For all you guys out there and all of my guests tonight, God bless, Merry Christmas, and I hope to see you guys soon.
Stay safe, everybody.
Peace.
Salute. Salute.
One episode